Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm back. I'm Chris Horner, and this is the 2022 season. I want to highlight some of the action that just got done being on display for us who watched the race anyways of Valencia. Now we're talking about 5-day stage race in Spain. It was a fantastic race. Remco Evenepoel, Alexander Vlasov had a great battle for the general classification, with Vlasov being able to dislodge Remco Evenepoel on the steep summit gravel roads there on stage 3. But today on Beyond the Coverage, I want to break down Quick Step's team lead out for the sprint stages. 3 fantastic sprint days out of the 5-day stage race here. Stages 2, stages 4, and stages 5. Now, stages 2 were hard to break down because the camera view for me sitting on the couch was difficult to really pick out what was happening in the action. So I'm going to leave 2 down to something simple, as there was a lot of chaos. Quick Step fell apart. Fabio Jakobsen did an amazing job with power and form to just blow everyone off the line and just win the stage in fantastic style. Now we get up to stage 4. Remco Evenepoel, he's out of the race leader's jersey now. He won stage 1, wore the race leader's jersey, lost it, like I said, to Alexander Vlasov on stage 3. Now at stage 4, there's a little bit of trickiness happening because Remco Evenepoel's in the white jersey, and you were probably getting used to seeing him in yellow there. So, the 5 kilometers to go as we come into the finish for the finishing sprint. It's Quick Step on the front. They got everything under control until Trek Segafredo take over. Now, we get to 4.2 kilometers to go. This, I want to point out in this picture here, it's Remco Evenepoel, and he's about 20th spot back in the white jersey for Quick Step. Now, he's going to remedy this problem. He's going to get to the front quite quickly. He's going to blow up to the front, and by 3.8 kilometers before the line, he is at the front, ready to go to work for Quick Step. So this is a lot of effort already put in from 4.2. Remember that, because this is an impressive display of just absolutely fabulous form from Remco Evenepoel, but it's actually a spectacular disaster in terms of tactics. So I'm both in awe of the young kid and then just absolutely just devastated by the tactics on how they're being played. Now, Remco Evenepoel is there at the front with 3.8 kilometers to go. B&B Hotel takes over coming up the right side. Remco Evenepoel will slot behind him, and then he will come out on the right side of the B&B Hotels. We'll see him look back over his left shoulder to make sure he has his teammates with him. He's got all his teammates, Yves Lampaert, Michael Morkov, and of course, the sprinter Jakobsen. Now, with all his guys in tow, Remco Evenepoel is going to go to the front, and now he starts putting on a display. He's on the right side of the road, driving fast. As they're coming up to the corner with 3 kilometers to go, Remco Evenepoel is fully in the front, has the whole race under control. Now, he's got his whole team lined up. This is a tricky situation. It's 3 kilometers to go. He's already done a lot of work for a kilometer, if not a kilometer point 2. That's a long time to be in the wind, but he's got his full team behind him lined up, so he's going to go ahead and start driving it. The road is crazy wide. We're talking about 4 or 5 lanes wide. This is almost impossible to do, and it's so rare to see what one rider like Remco Evenepoel is doing on this stage 4 that it's rarely ever seen that one rider can control the race. So, the sequence of events that happen have repercussions because we're not used to seeing one rider be able to control the whole field like this. It's going to affect everything from Quick Step's team tactics all the way to other team tactics along the way. Now, with 2.5 kilometers to go, they're coming down the wide road, and now it's UAE Team Emirates Trentin that's up there in a drag race with Remco Evenepoel, but Evenepoel's got everything under control. Intermarché will fly up the left side of the road now with 4 guys, and this is now starting to put some pressure on Remco Evenepoel. And I want to point out one thing. When Intermarché comes flying by, there's a speed bump right there. They missed the speed bump going by on the left side, but Remco Evenepoel and Quick Step all hit the speed bump. At these kind of speeds, at this kind of pressure, when you hit a speed bump like that, while another team is already going slightly faster than you, Remco Evenepoel, I'm talking about, when he hits that speed bump, it's going to slow him down a little bit, and now he's getting in a little bit of a panic mode. This is where things start going catastrophically wrong for Quick-Step and Remco Evenepoel. Evenepoel makes the mistake. He panics and he goes over left, over the UAE Team Emirates rider, and starts coming up the right side of the Intermarché Wanty team lead out there. Now, Yves Lampart's fabulous rider. No knocks at all when we're talking Yves Lampart's, Marco Morkov, and of course Jakobsen, but they're all going to make their own mistakes on today's finishing stage too. Remco Evenepoel makes the biggest mistake though when he goes left and he starts passing UAE Team Emirates. That pushes off his teammate Yves Lampart's there, so he can't stay in the draft. At the kind of speed that Remco Evenepoel's doing and the kind of effort. Remember, you have the whole train there on the left side for Intermarché Wanty, and they're going fast, but Remco Evenepoel's actually going faster because, of course, he's gaining on all of their teammates. As he's gaining, though, Yves Lampart decides to pull the plug. Now, I got to say, my professional opinion, at this moment for Yves Lampart, I'm okay with him pulling the plug. He's losing the draft because Remco Evenepoel's put Yves in a very difficult situation because as he's skimming the riders moving to the left, he's cutting off his back wheel to Yves Lampart. So Lampart's like, okay, abort the mission, no problem. We're 2.3 kilometers to go from the line. Let's slot back in. There's no way Remco Evenepoel can pull for the next 2 kilometers anyways, so let me just back off and let Remco go. Now, we'll come back to that, but just keep that in mind. Remco Evenepoel, as he pinches off all his teammates, he moves all the way to the front of the train of the Intermarché guys and takes over the lead. At this point in time, when you're looking at the effort that Remco Evenepoel has done from 4.2 kilometers to go, all the way till he's taken the lead back again from Intermarché and hopping on the front, it's absolutely spectacular, the amount of effort, but it's still wrong. Better tactic for Remco Evenepoel would have been to stay all the way on the right side and just make 2 drag lines and keep Yves Lampart's, Michael Morkov, and of course Fabio Jakobsen on your wheel all the way solid going down the right side of the road. When he blend, that caused problems. Again, I agree with Yves Lampart's decision, but it was the wrong decision to let Remco Evenepoel go all the way to the left to begin with. They should have called him back, but he's a young kid. Now, with 1.5 kilometers to go, Remco Evenepoel still on the front, and he's coming up to a right turn, and it's going to be a difficult, narrow right turn. He's going to fly into that, a little bit of gap on the Intermarché train just behind him. On top of that, when you look further back, it's Pasqualon, one of their lead-out sprinters there for Alexander Kristoff, who's fighting his way back onto his train wheel. When they go into the right turn, they're going 4 wide. It's Pascal Wallon, it's B&B Hotels, and 2 Trek Segafredo riders who made the mistake to overlap their wheels going into the turn. Now they're trying to fit 4 in there. The 2 Trek riders will take each other out on the left side of the road, and that'll open up a gap. That's going to cause a little bit of problems there for Intermarché because Remco Evenepoel is flying up the road. So they got to close the gap up to Remco. And remember, all the gaps in the back now have to be closed from the 2 gaps that got open from the Trek Segafredo riders disappearing off to the left of the road. Now, as Remco Evenepoel exits the right-hand turn with 1.5 kilometers to go, he will look over his shoulder, but he'll continue to punch it. This is another mistake made by Remco Evenepoel. As soon as he looked over his shoulder, he should have seen that there's Intermarché lined up solid on his wheel, and Quick-Step is just too far back there. Yves Lampart's, Michael Morkov are not in sight. They're, I believe, 8th, 9th, 10th spot back there. That's way too far back with less than 1.4, 1.3 kilometers to go. At 1.1 kilometers to go, things get interesting, and if I'm not mistaken, it's Michael Morkov that hops on the radio, and you know he's yelling to Remco Evenepoel to shut it down at the front or slow it down, do something to change the rhythm. When you look at where the Quick-Step riders are, they're way too far back. And on top of that, Remco Evenepoel is just too impressive. Now, if Remco blows right now at 1 kilometer to go, it changes the whole race because now Intermarché have to pull all the way from one kilometers to go into the finish. But Remco Evenepoel gets back on the front. He slowed for just a second, under 1.1 kilometers to go. They go under the 1K banner, and we'll see Alexander Kristoff and Pasqualon, and they'll rotate positions so Alexander Kristoff can get behind Pasqualon, his lead-out man. This was a fantastic tactic and needed to be employed if Alexander Kristoff wants any chance of winning today's stage. With 600 meters to go, it's Remco Evenepoel on the front as they're coming up to a soft right-hand bend. Now, this is still important because if Remco Evenepoel can just pull off at any moment here, they can still save the race for Fabio Jakobsen back there and his quick-step teammates. He stays on the front. Behind Intermarché, have 3 lined up, but the first rider, Sven Erik Byström back there, his legs are blowing because he probably had to close that gap after the corner, right-hand corner with 1.5 kilometers to go when there was the distraction back there with the crashes. Now his legs are blowing. He'll swing off. Pasqualon will bring Alexander Kristoff up to Remco Evenepoel just as Evenepoel pulls off. Behind, let's back the film up just a little bit because it's Michael Morkov who's coming from the back depths back there trying to get back up to Fabio Jakobsen so he can lead him out for the left-hand turn coming up with 300 meters to go. Michael Morkov will get there, but it was probably a better tactic for him to just stay back and out of the way. Instead, he gets up there. Remco Evenepoel's pulling off. Pasqualon from Intermarché is starting his sprint. At this moment, it's going to be hard for anyone to move up and change their positions. Quickstep is in a bad position. Michael Morkov is trying to bring Fabio Jakobsen up, but he won't have any luck as they're trying to pass the outside of the left-hand bend. Now, when that's happening, I want to point something out just before we go into this corner. There, it's Moschetti, the Trek Segafredo rider, who's actually behind Fabio Jakobsen. So throughout all of the mistakes made all the way to the finish of today's race, they still have a chance. Quickstep still have a chance with Fabio Jakobsen to win today's stage. The problem is he picked Michael Morkov's wheel to follow on the outside instead of staying on the inside. It's Moschetti, Trek Segafredo rider. He cuts all the way inside, starts sprinting up the inside next to the fence, passes Alexander Kristoff, the Intermarché rider, who had a fantastic lead out, hand-delivered lead out to the win on this stage 4. Doesn't have the legs. Pasqualon, Trek Segafredo rider, will take today's stage, but it's Fabio Jakobsen back there blocked in from mistake after mistake after mistake on today's race, which is the reason why he did not win today's stage. Now, Quickstep. This is the first races of the season, so you can understand why there were so many problems. But when you're looking at a rider like Remco Evenepoel, and I picked today's stage to talk about on Beyond the Coverage, because to see a GC rider like Remco Evenepoel, who can climb time trial, win one-day races, win flat, win still hilly races, have a fantastic ride like he did at the World Championships in terms of form last year, not in terms of tactics, but in terms of form, and then come and do a lead out so impressive from 4 kilometers to go that I had to highlight it on Beyond the Coverage. Now, the mistakes made from Quickstep will be fixed for the very next day. Clearly, they had a talk with Remco Evenepoel about leaving his team and merging with Intermarché. The next stage 5 will be Quickstep's most dominant sprint. They win in absolutely beautiful, impressive style. Their stage 2 win from Fabio Jakobsen was done with brilliant tactics of just one rider there at the finish. Stage 4, Remco Evenepoel and all his teammates' tactics were a nightmare. Stage 5, Fabio Jakobsen was absolutely beautiful, and his whole team lined up and all put in the right place. Trust behind Remco Evenepoel. Remco Evenepoel not leaving his teammates, not gapping them off by changing wheels. It was absolutely a brilliant display on stage 5. But if you look at Valencia, if you look at stage 2 and you watch the finish of stage 4 and the finish of stage 5, you'll see the evolution of the Quickstep train with Remco Evenepoel and how well they gelled him in on the final stage of Valencia to win a second stage with Fabio Jakobsen. Their third for Quickstep because Remco Evenepoel won one of the summit finishes. He finishes second overall. Vlasov wins the general classification. It was a fabulous week of racing racing. Hope you guys enjoy Beyond the Coverage. Look forward to the Butterfly Effect starting soon. I'll bring it back as soon as the big races, Het Nieuwsblad, start here at the end of February. Until then, I'll cover some of these races that I've seen where there's been a lot of tactical mistakes, and I'll point them out because I know the announcers, when you're watching the race, they don't have the time to go back or the experience to go back, or sometimes they just miss it because there's a lot of things going on when they're sitting in the booth. It was a great week of racing at Valencia. Make sure if you get a chance to tune in and watch it, and I'll cover Marseille on my next edition of Beyond the Coverage. Like and subscribe, and see you real soon.